Support for Wrong About Everything comes from Minnesota's credit unions. Credit unions are locally based, member-owned financial cooperatives that return earnings to members through higher savings rates, lower loan rates, and reduced fees. Visit mncun.org for more information.
Welcome back to another episode of Wrong About Everything. I am DFL strategist and the Puerto Rican Heat, Javier Morillo, and I am alone today again. The Republicans keep leaving, and they keep leaving the mic to me. So here we go. Today's going to be an episode full of rants, my rants, and a very special interview with a dear friend and also state rep, and we'll get to her in a second. But first, let's pay some bills. First, welcome to the Minnesota Credit Union Network studio, deep within the recesses of NBC in Minneapolis. And we want to thank our newest sponsor, Minnesota Licensed Beverage Association. Since 1952, the Minnesota Licensed Beverage Association has been helping licensed beverage retailers in the state of Minnesota with information resources, educational programs, and government affairs services designed to promote and protect their business. All our member retailers understand that, quote, with MLB, you are not alone. And Bradshaw Bryant, their entire team of staff and attorneys is dedicated to providing the legal advice you need, combined with the service and personal attention you deserve. If you have questions about how they can assist you with a personal injury, wrongful death, or criminal defense matter, do not hesitate to contact them because consultations are free. You can call them at 800-770-7008 or contact them at minnesotapersonalinjury.com. So getting started here today, before my rants, I thought to do something a little different today, a little special. By the way, let us know in the comments how you last week we had an all Republican episode. We're not permanently changing the format. We just have travel schedules and things like that. And so we're mixing it up here, but let us know what you think. Tell us in the comments. I imagine the Republicans will not be happy with today, and I imagine Democrats were not happy last week. So that's what we'll do. We'll just keep you have a little bit of heartburn every other week. How about that?
They're going to hate this one.
Maybe. We'll see. But this is why you're not going to hate it, because I'm going to introduce you to a fantastic state rep, my state rep, who happens to be a good friend. She is also a fellow Boricua. She's Puerto Rican. I came to Minnesota to be represented by Puerto Ricans, which is awesome. But Maria Isa Perez Vega, how you doing?
I'm great. It's good to be aquí contigo.
Oh, are we going to play the
video? Oh yeah, you're going to play the video? So you all may remember that I played that during the election. That was Maria Isa. So Maria Isa is also, spoiler alert, a hip hop artist, pretty well known in the local scene in Minnesota, well known in Puerto Rico as well. Has traveled the country and the world, right?
Let's get it.
Yeah.
Passport stamps, baby. Got to renew that pretty soon here.
Yeah. But right now, what I want to talk about right now at first is you're a state rep.
I am.
Representing
District 65 Boricua. But
65B.
It's been a Boricua elected district for a long time.
Yeah, because before you, it was Carlos Mariani.
That's right. Chicago Ricua. But this is the first Sota-Rican.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell people that term you coined, Sota-Rican.
I'm a Boricua.
Mm-hmm.
Born in the state of Minnesota. And that's just it. I'm not Nuyorican. I'm Sota-Rican.
Yeah. So you came into the legislature in 22.
That's right. The year of I was sworn in 23, but election 22.
Election 22.
The year of it was like the miracle trifecta.
Yeah. So and you came in with the large class also of representatives of color, right?
That's right. That's right. We grew our posse. We made historical posse wins for our posse caucus, people of color, indigenous caucus.
I wanted to start here because yeah, you're a person of color, and then you're Latina, you're Puerto Rican, and that might make a lot of Minnesotans assume that you are a migrant or an immigrant or not a native to Minnesota. You are native to Minnesota. You are born here.
Go get my birth certificate at the vital records in the state, and it will say yes. It will tell you that I was born in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. So the great represented by Larry Kraft, I always talk about like, hey man, I was there for like one day. And that our Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan is from us. But my mom made my dad drive to St. Louis Park because of Methodist Hospital. And as you look at the birthing records and maternal health care, now, we're doing good things in Minnesota that has taken a long time, but she made my father drive for both of her pregnancies to St. Louis Park with the same doctor because they had a really good mother's maternal care. Yeah. And so it's wild. Let's
talk a little bit about your mom because I normally wouldn't necessarily ask a state rep about their parents, but your mom basically created the Puerto Rican community here.
So she, plantó bandera. Young Lord Elsa, Sasa from Delancey, Mami la Tremenda, she found other Puerto Ricans like Dr. Miguel Fiol, who was here in the School of Neurology. He's a neurologist at the University of Minnesota for decades. And he was here. And so she was like, I'm not the only one, but one of the few. And then found Puerto Ricans who, married Mexican women from the flats. And, they established community. And then Puerto Ricans like the Rosario family who are married to the Mariani family. Like it's a connection of Puerto Ricans. And Elsa Vega Perez said, we are going to do movement work together and be a part of how Puerto Ricans, we're everybody. We're indigenous, we're black, we're white, we got everything, right? And so Minnesota, they're having the same disparities that we have in New York City and in Chicago and in Puerto Rico. Like, we need to educate. We need to educate our communities to be in movement together. And so she came here and she collectively, got engaged with the Rondo and the Sisters of Rondo and, the Mexican community of the flats and the migrant farm workers, the other Puerto Ricans and the American Indian movement. Those are the collaborative efforts. If you think of 1972, spring comeback move, spring 1973 from New York, and what that looked like in these times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was the state's first appointed.
She was the state. So the first Governor Rudy Perpich in 1985 appointed her as the first Latina director for the Offices of Equal Opportunity.
The Office of Equal Opportunity.
Yes.
And your parents, when I say that she practically founded the Puerto Rican community, like literally the first stop for a lot of Puerto Ricans when they came from either New York or the island was your house.
Oh, absolutely. Sota-Rican. So that's where, like, for me, I'm like, where are you from? I'm like, yo, it's like casita, right? Everybody knows the Bad Bunny casita. But on the west side, and it was the Chinchorro, right? It was Eddie Palmieri, Tito Puente, like the Celia Cruz, the Fania Osters. They were bringing those artists to Minnesota, to Minneapolis, to the purple funk scene, and
I go to your house and see pictures of Celia Cruz.
Yeah.
And it's not like, these are not posters.
No, they're not like they're like chilling with Pedro Knight and my mom, just like hanging out with them and like, hosting them and seeing opportunities for as arts and culture, because they didn't have that, and they're like, we're not going to lose that. We're Puerto Rican, like, and the Mexicans were like, it's just like 2003 when Gasolina hit, a Puerto Rican played their song, all the Latinos were jumping in. So the salsa scene, todo es salsa and the hip hop scene, like cousins started to move from not just New York, like not just Lower East Side, Brooklyn, Bronx, but from Puerto Rico, like from Vega Baja and like from San Dulce, right? The public housing of what that looks like there to compare to public housing here and how it provided opportunity. So we talk about like, us being Puerto Rican, but also us being second-class citizens. And how does that give us a privilege to help other Latinos? And that was what Elsa, what mommy did. I feel we're calling her by her first name in an interview even, we don't do that stuff. She'd be like, a mí me respeta. But like,
I call her Doña Elsa.
yeah. And she'd be like, no me llama Doña, because I'm, I'm like, yeah, you're Doña.
No, in Puerto Rico, your elders, you ask them for bendición, your blessing every time. When I see Elsa, I say bendición, and she says Dios te bendiga.
That's so beautiful. Isn't that so bonito? My daughter, every night, like, she's like, te amo, and then she's like, bendición. And it's like, that's like epic. That's tribal.
Yeah.
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 So you grew up in this house where lots of people came in, like they first settled on the west side of St. Paul by stopping at Elsa and Harry's.
Yep.
And you grew up in all of in this world. And when did you decide, or when did you first realize that music was your passion?
Oh, I was born into it. Like, my grandmother on my paternal side sang in like the Ponce choir with Ruth Fernandez, who is the amazing and may she be at rest, was a senator, a black Afro-Boricua woman senator. So like, we grew up with hearing abuelitas singing, and my grandfather sang in boleros and like the trios between Santurce in World War II, while he was drafted at 18, and he always talked about how the trumpet, playing the horn, and like singing kept people joyful even through war. And so like those avenues of like even the Borinqueneers, that's in here. The
Borinqueneers were
singing.
The all Puerto Rican battalion in the army when the army was segregated.
Yeah, and then my grandfather on my maternal side, El Mujeriego Kiko Vega, we have a song about that. I have a song about that. But it's, he was a salsero dancer, and he was young, and you've seen my primito, but he's like a nephew, Santiaguito, the lineage. He looked like that, like at flaquito así, and could move and dance, and he would dance at the clubs at Tito Puente with playing. There's pictures of like my grandfather and Celia Cruz, not the same that you've seen in the decade of the 80s where she's kind of got the Tina Turner look, right? But it's like back in the mambo era in Harlem, in El Barrio. My grandfather's there just, he loved to dance. And so music, it's Puerto Ricans is there. You always had the tío playing the maraca to the drums. And my mom didn't like professionally, but she played percussion at a time. And then she's like, that was just cultural. So she created that avenue of getting Puerto Rican artists through our family to start a school to teach us about, like, she's like, they're not going to not learn everything else, but they got to remain Boricua.
At Arcoiris.
That was El Arcoiris in 1992.
1992.
So
is that where you first started learning?
Oh, that's like my first, because we would play chords, watch family. I mean, Boricua style, like everybody's hitting something. Like, we're going to use like a frying pan and, tiral, right? Yep. But that's where I started. She had, was finding to write these grants, and she took the work after Rudy Purpich lost. She was like, I have to find work, and I learned a lot. And our people need to create our own spaces, and let's go. That's what equity is. Yeah.
So like today, like Bad Bunny's album, right? There's it's a mix of like,
it's amazing.
It's amazing, and it's a mix of urban music, hip hop, and traditional Puerto Rican music. You were doing that, mixing bomba plena and hip hop way before it's now been mainstreamed.
Benito was born in 1994?
Yeah.
So we were playing that in 1992.
Right.
And it was also, creating the avenues of what music industry looked like, crossover, right? In pop world, right? I mean, I think about Selena was the blossoming, right? During that time, and the cumbia and the mixtures of that. And so while we were learning our rhythms that evolve into the rhythms, because bomba is to hip hop, right? Is to dembow, is to reggaeton. We have the history and the knowledge of, one, weapons of peace and resistance during that have survived the Middle Passageway, collaborating with the indigenous rhythms of Borinquen and of the Caribe and of, post-Columbus, whatever, like we've been playing these rhythms prior, and they've been surviving. And so we were learning history to be able to continue not only just to play music, and I'm not just talking about me, but the movement of Diasporicans, because it's an effort of the Diasporicans to make sure that these books can be published, to make sure that our rhythms can be taught, and that our pride is reflective to continue to survive with the new chamaquitos que están dando cuero en plena. Like I think about the legacy of Hector Tito Matos, founder like La Goico programming right now post-hurricane, right? And in Puerto Rico, on Calle Loíza and Santurce, where you see our people being displaced and bought out, you know, and he's in the spirit world. He passed away unexpectedly, but left that legacy through the works of Emmanuel, you know, Emmanuel Santana, que tú veas tocando el güiro con Bad Bunny. Like, this is all education, surviving, gentrification of New York City to Chicago to Minnesota to Texas. Everywhere you go around here, you're gonna see the bomberos that are just in play like because of Bad Bunny right now, you know. This is what the sacrifice of us with these bomba drum and these plenas, but also the blessing of our community to still have that on the island, and as a tool, number one tool for the entire world to recognize. El grito de Benito. Yeah. We haven't had a grito like this since Albizu.
Yeah. So y'all are experiencing what I experience every day, which is that
you're getting a history lesson.
Maria knows more about Minnesota and more about Puerto Rico. And this is what's fascinating to me. More about Puerto Rico than a lot of Puerto Ricans that I know from the island. And a lot of you, because your mom, you born in Minnesota, born and raised here, but your mom kept her ties to the island and kept your ties to the island. And kept but made sure you knew more, because everything it rolls off the tongue when it's Maria Isa speaking. But a lot of Puerto Ricans don't know their history.
And that was what the movement of the Young Lords was. You know, that was also what the migration of our grandparents that dreamt to go back to their casitas. Yeah. You know, and made home in the frío de San Pablo, y las cosas, you know, the things aren't good in Almirante with the education, like before Maria. Then now it's a highlight, but you know the history of it because we have been able to show the world that we're elected officials, you know, and women. I love the fact when I meet up with other Boricua women nationally, like whether they're in their state, their assembly, or they're elder women, and, you know, and Boricua men too. But it's like an impact when you're a Boricua woman. And I'm in Minnesota, and I'm explaining to them this, they're like, ¿Cómo tú sabes esto? I'm like, because mommy, you know, and Huela. And it's the matriarch of our women's brilliance. My grandmother on my maternal side that raised me, so mommy could be working. You know, think about all the sisters, the Latinas that are in the government office right now. I love when I see them, I'm like, we got, you know, and my mom, that makes her like just glow like of hope. Like,
because she was it.
Because she was like, coño, you know, and it's you know, and then that's why I'm in my legislative space to be like, they think I don't know these tunnels. I've tripped on these tunnels when I was a toddler, you know. So
I want to get to that, but let's talk a little bit about your music. So you started. So how did you get your start as a professional musician?
I was 16 years old when I recorded my first demo. I was writing at 11 years old, but I went to the recording studio and recorded my first demo on the West Side, and it was at a Rhyme Sayers. Los Nativos studio, which is also known as Felipe's home that he was renting. And it's down the block. And, you know, those are the brothers that your mom had confianza. Those are the ones that are te van a cuidar. You know, we're not just going to be in the studio because you know what happens in the studio and how are your grades? And I'm like, I'm in. They took the space to record me on covers. And it was like the time of 2001, 2002. And it's, you know, Ashanti. And it's Mary J. Blige, but it was like Ashanti, Alicia Keys, and Lauryn Hill. And I'm like, I got my own music, though. I want to record my own music. And we did the song, What's It Gonna Take? And that was played on KMOJ at like 16. It was like going around, and it's like West Side, who's the Mad Mexican was DJing. So it was always a connection, you know? And I started just kind of recording demos all the time, even on like a Fisher Price thing. And I said, we need to build a studio on the West Side. Like we should have one at the West Side Boys and Girls Club, because we had a whole collective of different rap groups. There was rap crews on the South Side of Minneapolis, North Minneapolis. But they were like, who's this one Puerto Rican girl rapping everywhere? And I got my first show at First Avenue at 17. And then I opened up in the main room when I turned 18. The week before I left to college, I opened up for Slick Rick, and it was the Twin Cities Hip Hop Festival. And it was wild. And like, I came out doing reggaeton and bomba. And like, what you're seeing is like, what we witness is so beautiful, because I think back to being like, coño. They used to be like, you're too political. You can't talk about this in your rap because we want to play you on KDWB. And I was like, man, so KDWB, I just did a commercial with Target. They can spin that and hear my voice on there. You know, like, it's the artistry of it and it's the politics of it, because it's always been activism through hip hop. And the battle rap was not what you can rhyme, but for me, it was more about what can I rhyme about?
Right.
And I got the rap name Lolita, and they were calling me Lolita, and I was like, but I sing too. I don't want to be like Lolita on the sing. I'm Maria Isa, you know? And so, and I was auditioning for theater and getting arts, because that helped me. Arts, education, theater helped me beat the statistics that a lot of my homegirls and a lot of my homeboys weren't beating in the early 2000s, in the late 90s, with teen pregnancies and dropping out of school and literacy rates or going to jail, you know? And I had seen that sectors of like witnessing to say, this shouldn't happen. And this wouldn't happen if you didn't have allocated this funding to that program and not going then. Like, they're like, how do you know all of that stuff? And it's like, because my mom taught me. I came to the University of Xcel Vega Perez.
Right.
And that's been the journey for arts. I was able to hustle how I seen her, because she's a New York hustler. It's not about I'm taking, it's about how do you make more,
right,
to deliver more on that. And I took that attitude, because she couldn't quit. You can't leave those rooms. And if you have a demographic of Latinos that when I was born, it was under 1%. Okay, now we're 26% of the population, a quarter of the state's population, and 69% are like me, born here. Okay, the circle of the pie don't look right, right? So that's the same hustle of those mechanisms of how I learned that through what Elsa was telling me, like, hey, review this grant. What do you think about this program? Do you think that this program would work? And she'd always incorporate the youth, because the youth are going through the system at the hardest, no matter what. And breaking that in, I would be like, this budget's not right, you know? And people were like, well, how old were you when you were doing that? I was like 12, 13, because she needed help. She needed help with that. And she had people building in the infrastructures of what clues are, right? When you think about that space and who's going to fund, and like, you know, Ruby Lee being able to, she was at Pioneer Press on marketing and trying to do advertising. There's always a way to find, like, there's always a way and a will to find something for our kids. Sponsoring bomba drums, sponsoring costumes, you know, putting in a girl wants to apply for college, might need to visit it. Everybody puts in, you know, like those were the avenues. And I'm like, you have smart Latina women that were coordinating to say, you know, we're going to change this.
Right.
We're going to get it for ourselves of our own. We need Casa de Esperanza. We need that. And now it's the same, but we're grown.
Right.
But it's not equitable at all. As Latinas, we're always the lowest in the pay, always being told to be picante and chill out. Like, nah, this is a new era. Yeah. We're in the spaces. And that is in Minnesota. Somebody come and test me right now, to battle me right now, to say that you don't know. And if you don't know the history of Latina women in Minnesota, let me inform you about it. Let's connect you with them. Because guess what? I'm not going to just talk to you about Xcel Vega Perez. I'm going to talk to you about Ramona Rosales. I'm going to talk to you about the Castillos. I'm going to talk to you about this Mexican woman from Kansas City named Debbie Luna, who is going to show up. You know, like, these are these roots that are implanted here. Lupe Serrano, all of these amazing, amazing women. Sandra Vargas, who's like, don't take no. So let's talk history, but also there wouldn't be a Maria Isa, you know.
Were it not for
if it weren't for the women ahead of me within even this space, and then it grows into a diaspora of Puerto Rico, and then it goes to the island of Puerto Rico.
So when I first heard of you and first met you, I knew you as an artist who was very political. So what made you want to move from being an artist who was political to actually being a part of the political process, and then becoming a legislator?
Because the political process is always telling you to be patient. And I'm saying it's delayed. And I'm like, I can complain as much to see things, but what complaining do?
Yeah.
You know, it was like I have an amazing crew of other Latinos and other folks and other allies that are like, if we don't raise the roof together, you know, and if we're not in there,
right,
we can't do it. I know that because my mom's like, I never went into there was a space, but I was like, yeah, but you know, the madrinas, Sharon's did her thing, you know, when they told her no, and she did it, and they're like, yup, and they said, if you, well,
you're talking about Sharon Sales Belton, first Black woman in Minneapolis.
Madrina, right? Titi Sharon, right? So, and it's like, and those are the women that's the debate at the table. Those are the agreement, let's agree to disagree with, right? And then having to work really hard to change that, right? To say, oh, wow, and it's not that I proved you wrong. It's like, no, that's the generation that blocked it here, but we can do something different this way. And the strategic planning of how we can do that takes a movement. And so I always pay homage to our elders and our ancestors and remind like our generation where we're at right now. I'm not old. I'm grown. Okay. But there's folks that are older than me. And you got to like respect on that sensibility. But yeah, for the youngins, it's like, oye, respeta. You know, there's got to be this word, and we can agree to disagree, but respect is loyalty.
But so
I jumped in because of that, because I'm like, this is what's going on here.
So you
Soldiers are getting older.
You ran in 22 for the House.
Yep.
Because I want to take your music career seriously, and I also want to especially take your political career seriously, because you know, sometimes like people be like you're the rep who raps, and yes, that is true, you're the rep who raps, but also like you're a serious, I've seen you at work, I've seen you like your how much you handle policy. The difference for me is like when you talk about policy, you talk about all these names that y'all are hearing Maria drop, and you may not know some of them. You may think, oh, who's this person? These are very real people from our community who I hear you talk about when you talk about an English immersion bill or
absolutely.
Or
can I phone line one? Give me 1 second. Yeah. I'm not just a musician. I'm also an actress, so I like to inform how we can make comedy in times of, you know, this federal shit show. So,
yes.
But we got to keep, you know, the Patch Adams laugh, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it's all that.
But so what committees do you serve on?
I serve on capital investment. And as a Latina,
and tell us what
like,
capital investment does.
It's like, you know, bodega baddie. But
I don't think that's a title.
it's a title for in the new Cardi B album, and you should play the song. It's a fantastic barrio merengue. Good job.
I just found out she's 32.
Yeah.
How is that possible? She's a baby. Anyway.
I know. Sometimes I'm like, I have this grown baby now, and I'm not a baby, and they think we're babies, and we're like, no, we're moms.
Yeah.
We're bodega baddies. But capital investment, so, you know, securing that there is a budget that can go and invest on our capital projects within the state of Minnesota. It's not just my district. You know, they're on a capital investment tour, and I haven't been able to like go all these places. Once, there's like security matters, right? And two, there's also it's Hispanic Heritage Month, and I call it Latina Month, and like that's the definition that I have to educate our communities on by making sure I'm everywhere during this month and after this month. And there's a lot of things happening in St. Paul. There's a lot of things happening in my district right now. So I study each of these projects and the budgets of what, from infrastructure, bridges, to development for museums and arena renovations and housing opportunities for development. I mean, everything from this water that it's proven that Enbridge, that nobody that wanted to believe us, like going up to these towns, or I asked, like, this is a part of like the Enbridge project. Have you spoken? And our attorney general, who does such a great job, has let folks know that you qualify for these things. Those are like, so you asked me for capital investment. I'm talking about, these are like everything from water sewage to a windmill, man, to solar, to everything that needs to be empowered by the state in a couple of years projects.
Okay. And what other committees?
Education, finance. Mm-hmm. So vote yes on the St. Paul referendum. Can I say that on this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I can say a lot of things on this. This is like the Breakfast Club, but politics.
My podcast without the Republicans. So
I keep looking for Chulo to come up here, Chulo's his pitbull. But, so education, finance, K through 12 funding, with the Department of Education at the federal level being swamped. We are, in my district in particular, are requesting to vote yes in the St. Paul side.
So there was one thing you were involved in.
Children and families. That's the other committee.
Children and families.
Much love. Yeah.
The one thing you were involved in recently that I felt like brought together all these worlds for you, and that was the issue of Xcel was at the Capitol, was asking for a big capital investment for the Xcel Center.
It wasn't just a big. It was like,
it was very big.
Tremendo. It was like tremendous.
It was how much was it?
It was close to $500 million. Let's just say that.
It was close to $500 million. Yeah. And then and the end result, the end story, if you missed it, the headline is that the naming rights were purchased by
the Grand Casino Band of Ojibwe. So Grand Casino Arena is the new name. Yes.
And how did that happen?
That happened through, there's partnerships in the state and the assets of the entertainment industry. And you have there's a crew, it's like, I call them the Wild Boys, and the owner, Craig Leopold and Matt and all the wild guys that come into the office to talk about, what's happening within the district. And they had been proposing, but they didn't have any numbers. And the city of St. Paul, which is a co-owner of the arena, and our mayor, Melvin Carter, kept saying, we have the arena. I was like, okay, let me see the numbers, right? I never got the exact numbers and breakdown, not even in that committee meeting, just like a sheet of like what they plan to do. It was kind of like, to not have a bill drafted, to not have those conversations with the representative of that district, to not respond, to come back. If this is the priority of the city, was kind of like a little bit shocking to me, right? And the delegation, because I chair the St. Paul delegation at the Minnesota House. So, when it's presented that way, it was like the game show of like the Mary Franson show of like this. And I'm like, wait,
committee chair.
She's our co-chair committee. Co-chair. And I think they kind of like publicize it to be like this whole like novela. And that's my perspective of it. The Rep Who Raps perspective of it. Right. So, after that, I spoke with, the Craig Leopold and had a one-on-one, the owner of the Minnesota Wild, and who's shout out to Craig, much love to Craig. He was just like, I asked him, I'm like, is the team gonna move? He's like, no, he loves St. Paul and he sees the future of St. Paul and he's invested in St. Paul. I was like, there's no capital investment. We have a federal government that's going to take away bridges and this, and we don't have an $18 billion surplus. And even with an $18 billion surplus, like Minnesota taxes, is that the place to go? Yeah, right. So he just was understanding more of the process. And I said, but you guys have partnerships, right? Is it really about the Xcel partnership, or who are your other partners? Because there's other folks in the district. I think about like whatever, all the conversations about sports gambling and casinos betting with the tribes. I'm like, the tribes, the Band of Mille Lacs Ojibwe has they own the Intercontinental Hotel, right? With being able to
in
attract.
downtown St. Paul.
Yeah, and booking artists and all of this stuff within their capacity. And he said, yeah, we actually, are going to have a meeting, or like there's been some work, and just speaking with like some folks from like the tribal nations on it, like they had the capacity to do that. And so I was like, find the partnership. I'm not against the arena. I'm a rapper. I'm a performer, right? Like I want Bad Bunny in St. Paul. That will work. Right. Live Nation, what were you doing? But like, what love. But it's like, have that conversation. Then, the Wild Boys came to, we got the name. They're gonna keep Craig as like, right. And I want to shout out to the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe. Their district representative in their tribal government of the tribe of Mille Lacs is Wendy Morrell. And she's District 2, so she's like, right to the right of me if you see it on the video. I love this. You're like, oh, look, let's go to the image right there. So, yeah, and because, it's really the women who are, when I talk about the matriarch, the village, right, who are like, they have the capacity, they've been wanting it. They're excited about this project. Right. And it says, so all my constituents or the ones who come to tourism in the arena for hockey or concerts are like, we want to call it the X. I'm like, I like the fact that this is a partnership that doesn't take the state funding for the overall arena expansion, because I'm like, I need that bridge and the parking ramp to be safe and fixed. Those are other opportunities that folks use for work and for businesses on West 7th to have parking, right? These restaurants. And we need a parking ramp more. And that's where I look at capital investment to be supporting in the revenue that is going to be brought. And I love the partnership with our tribal nations. Especially, I'm going to keep highlighting that the federal government's getting funding for everything.
So did you connect them?
Did I connect them? Yeah. I supported that. Yeah. And I also told the Minnesota Wild Boys that, Craig Leopold, go to the tribes. Why haven't, we've got relationships built. Of course you do. Treasure Island, but this in particularly, the Grand Casino, Mille Lacs, like they have been wanting something like this. Through just kind of, you studied the planning of what they had their discussions. I'm a nerd. I like to review meeting notes from different places and different areas, especially when it comes to these projects. With capital investment, I take my job serious. So it's like, this is a win-win situation. And it also looks at the social justice aspect. And I want to also highlight their government relations person, Jamie Edwards, a brother in hip hop movement, like what do this looks like for the next generations of how we educate and civically engage our communities to make things work out. Yeah.
So basically what started out as a proposal that would have cost taxpayers almost $500 million.
Yep.
Ended up in the tribe in Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe purchasing the naming rights. And then the repairs that needed to be made. Who's going to pay for those?
So the repairs within is being requested like a lower number from, and I'm pretty sure that I'll probably end up having some legislation on the repairs additional expenses, right? And then, but there's also two very important projects that surround the building that the city also owns, which is the historic Roy Wilkins Arena. And the St. Paul River Center. And those are spaces that could be partnerships, right? When we think about other clubs and venues, such as like First Avenue, who rocks with the Palace, right? That was the Joe Spencer, Chris Coleman end of it. They got that space. And so those are the avenues that are going to need repairs. And those are the tours that I look forward to visiting with our capital investment early this upcoming November.
Well, I wanted to talk about that because I feel like it brings it all together. Because I saw that happen in real time. And then all of a sudden there was a naming ceremony and I was like, what happened? Because it did not look like a deal was about to happen. And then seemingly out of nowhere, but not out of nowhere. I hope you all can hear that it was not out of nowhere because it was about people connecting people.
Things are being built for a long time. Yeah. And by different people in different ways. And that makes sense, right? Doesn't it make sense?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, we'll work on it. We'll continue to work on it. But shout out to the tribes. Shout out to Downtown Vitality, working on opportunities together in partnerships and culturally, competent.
I got a quick question. It can be for either of you guys on this one, but why did something, because I'm someone who pays attention to hockey and, at least like to some degree, and I'm just shocked I never heard of this, and I think it's pretty newsworthy. Why did something like this not make the news? Is Maria just really bad at self-promotion, or like what?
This specifically?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, that's a city question, I got my own comm situation with the house, but they're the partner, That's why I want to say, like, that was a move. The tribes came with the partnership plan, and the Wild did too, because those are the relationships that you build. You're both investing into something. Yeah. So shout out to the tribes and the Wild boys, because they helped the city out.
Yeah, but I think, Gabe, to your point, this is why I wanted to ask Maria about it, is because I, like, believe me, if they had somehow finagled $500 million out of the state, we would have seen headlines about that.
You think I was gonna let that rock?
No, I'm just right. I'm saying in a hypothetical.
I'm a West Side girl, man. I'm from the West.
Right.
Let's think strategically here. So
we
everybody.
have problem solving happening.
Yeah.
And when problem solving happens, you don't necessarily get the big headlines. And problem solving happens when people are connected to community and know things like, hey, have you talked to the tribes? Like that's how things come together.
Absolutely. That's an Elsa Vega Perez. that's
to bring it full circle.
Yo no estoy aquí pa placa, right? We're the news headlines. It's just like, hey, let's make news now and let's build.
Yeah.
It's also just one of those things. All we've seen is corporations like that win for the last 20 years. It seems like. So it's like cities do get extorted by these kind of things.
100%.
So that's why it's great.
Well, thank you.
Why it should be
well, you know what? I'm very grateful that then you asked that question, and I appreciate everybody kind of wanting to know that. And if they want to know more about it, contact us. We got you.
All right. Can you stay for some rants? Because I got a few rants. Usually at the end of the show, we do spanks and thanks.
I do. I am a watcher, so I'm kind of fangirling right now. Just the whole scene. I thought we were gonna be on the other side of the room. I was like, this is kind of epic. Okay, but
no.
You're in your cabañita.
Yeah. So first one, you might have heard of. This happened some weeks ago. There was Mehdi Hassan, who's the formerly of MSNBC. He went on an internet show called Jubilee, where they do these big debates, and he debated I think it was 20-some far right young people.
Do you want to
play the little clip?
All right, let's get that right here.
Family lineage of settlers from the 1500s.
Colonialists.
Yeah, colonials.
You don't look very Native American to me.
I am Native American. Whites are Native Americans. What are you talking about?
You're not.
What are you talking about?
You're a little bit more than a far-right Republican.
Hey, what can I say?
I think you could say I'm a fascist.
Yeah, I am.
Listen to me. I am an immigrant. I'm speaking from personal experience.
Get the hell out.
I don't even like... I should get the hell out.
Yes.
Why?
I don't want you here.
I'm Mehdi Hassan. I'm a...
Yeah.
Gets me every time.
That was just some of the clips of that. And and when this happened, there was a lot of debate about whether Mehdi Hassan did the right thing by going on the platform. My personal opinion on it was that, I didn't know a lot of any of these people there, but I was surprised by how mainstream, how much they had seemed to have mainstreamed the language for themselves, right? Like when someone I call me old fashioned. I grew up at a time when it was embarrassing to be a fascist. That was not something you would claim to be. But one of the things that some people said to talk about was that there was that, that's their fringe groups that we shouldn't be platforming them. They're out on the fringe. Well, this week we have news that to me put this back on the map, which was Politico did a big story about a leaked group chat of young Republicans. Now, these are not far right internet troll people. These are actual young Republicans, young GOP leaders. Some of them work in government, and the chat is astounding. The headline of the article is, quote, "I love Hitler. Leaked messages expose young Republicans' racist chat." And sometimes headlines are more sensational than the story. I think that headline actually undersells this story. So there are thousands of private messages of these young GOP leaders joking about gas chambers, joking about slavery, joking about rape, referring to black people as monkeys. That it just horrific stuff. And these are people who were like Young Republicans vice chair of the Kansas Young Republicans vice chair. That guy used the N-word several times on this chat. And occasionally on the chat, one of the things that people would say is like, wow, if this ever leaked, we'd be in trouble.
Right.
And then they go right back to being racist. Well, it did,
and so let's get you in trouble.
Yeah.
I'm just
well, this is
hate.
It is
It's terrorist.
And I'm trying to wrap my brain around this in a way that, because I think like there's this thing that has happened with online culture was like, oh, you're edgy by like you don't care, I can say anything. So it's, you know, like when someone says like, you know, if that they're going to gas people who do not support them in an election, they gas them, and then it says because you're the only one true believers. Or can we fix the showers? A reference, gas chambers don't fit the Hitler aesthetic. And then someone else hearts that comment, and someone else does the laughing emoji. How incredibly mainstream these are the people. Republicans do a good job of having a pipeline from college Republicans to getting internships on the Hill, to becoming like then staff on and then eventually running for office. These are the future leaders of the Republican Party.
Yep.
And there are no Republicans here for me to ask, like, how do you feel about that?
I was going to ask that. What would they say?
I mean, I think that they would honestly be appalled.
Okay.
I think they would probably say, "Oh, that's just a few people," and this is what, like, this chat to me.
No, this is a lot.
This is a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of people in specific positions of power within the Republican youth movement, and I think there's some explaining that they got to do. This is, you know, this is. Is this the world we want to live in? So that is my rant number one, because I saw that and it was appalling, unbelievable.
Wow.
Rant number two. So this weekend we have the No Kings rally is happening.
That's right.
So Republicans seem to be freaking out about it. And how do we know they're freaking out about it? Because they're calling it a hate rally. Because they're saying it's an anti-American rally, that these guys are playing to the most radical, small, and violent base in the country. You'll see them on Saturday at the mall. They just do not love this country. Like, this is a plan for people to exercise their First Amendment free speech rights, and specifically to say that the rise of authoritarianism that we are seeing, the lawlessness, it is not true to this country's history. It is not true to the ideals that we supposedly uphold in a democracy. But no, it's not good enough. We have to villainize our enemies. We have to say, in fact, that if that the No Kings is a hate rally. I hope lots of people show up this weekend to peacefully protest, to peacefully make our voices heard. Because that is what this country was founded on, quite literally. And my third and last rant, you're going to like this one, Maria. Because
let's get it.
This one is about the former First Lady of Puerto Rico.
Oh, man. That rant.
I'm going
to laugh.
That's... So in
Super Bowl, ¿me entiendes?
In 2019, Maria and I were busy, as were almost every Puerto Rican on the island of Puerto Rico and in the diaspora, because
we got him.
because the governor
Yeah.
of Puerto Rico, Ricky Rosselló, was discovered to have been on, surprise, surprise, a chat that was leaked, similar to the chat we just talked about, a chat that was leaked that was horribly offensive, including making light of and making fun of Puerto Ricans who died. They made fun of our dead after Hurricane Maria. It was vile. It was sexist. It was homophobic. It was so
insulting.
It was so insulting.
Oof.
And the entire island rose up. Millions of people came out to protest to get rid of it. And it was a movement called Ricky Renuncia. And Ricky Rosselló, the then governor, did eventually resign, just powered by the people. So Beatriz Rosselló, former first lady, she made news this week by saying that she was going to start a Turning Point USA chapter in Puerto Rico. Turning Point is the organization that Charlie Kirk founded. That's been in the news a lot ever since his unfortunate murder. We've seen
Mind-blowing.
It's mind-blowing that anyone in Puerto Rico would think about this. But here's the funny part: is so she said, I'm starting a Turning Point Puerto Rico. Now, mind you, she and Ricky Rosselló are supposedly Democrats.
Oh, there's more to the rant. Can I interrupt?
No, please jump. No, this is why I wanted to include this one so you could jump in. But
keep going. I'm not jumping in yet. But
so
I got
Turning Point USA.
Yeah.
They're like, we ain't doing anything with her.
Yeah.
Because they don't want a chapter in Puerto Rico. Guess what? They don't want a chapter in Puerto Rico because they don't like us, people.
That's
no sean pendejos. Oh my God.
It's, I mean, here's the thing. You had the whole island and the diaspora. I was a new mom holding Loisa, and she had a Ricky Renuncia shirt at 4 months. And we got you out of there, right? We got a lot more work to do on getting other people out of there. But why would you think that going against not Bad Bunny? Bad Bunny just doesn't have Puerto Ricans. Yeah. He's got the world.
Yeah.
And
because the background on this is they are statehooders, and the statehood party decided that what they need to do is to go at war with Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
So Bad Bunny, who has put Puerto Rico on the map around the world, apparently there's a football game that's happening soon.
Just something like that. Something like that. It's Super Bowl.
But so you can see,
Benito Bowl. It's Benito Bowl. Benito.
Yes, that's right. I'm gonna finally watch a damn Super Bowl.
You want to know what's funny?
What?
This will make you laugh. So our governor visited Raspberry Island. Go check it out if you're in Minnesota till October 27th to the Alebrijes Keep of the Island. And the first thing
is an exhibit of
Latino, the Minnesota Latino Museum art. And the first thing he says as he's giving a Latina Heritage Month Day proclamation is, I thought about your rep as the Benito Bowl. And it was like a Super Bowl. We got a lot of things to work on.
When Tim Walz knows the words Benito Bowl, Puerto Ricans have arrived.
We're only the largest
again.
military recruitment post World War I, but we're here. We're here
again. We pop up in the news every once in a while, and Benito is So the statehood party has gone to war with Benito for some damn reason, and so at precisely that point, at the time when Talking Points USA is talking about organizing a counter halftime show, to Benito, because they're so damn racist that they can't stand the idea of a U.S. citizen performing in his native language, which is a language spoken across the United States, and that is the Spanish language. That's why he has had the #1 album this entire freaking year, because many people in the United States, and not just Latinos, listen to Spanish music.
Yeah, no.
Just go on TikTok, go on Reels. You say I saw one this morning. There was this white kid who's like, I'm practicing to impress the Latinas at the Super Bowl party, and I watch it. I was like, oh, this is gonna be terrible. He starts rapping like Benito.
Yeah, it's everywhere. I mean, hey, look, Wallahi brothers, you know. You've got the Persians, you've got the Vietnamese singing Benito. Everybody wants to learn plena, and I'm like, contact Sota-Rico. We have phenomenal educators and artists that a roster of Puerto Ricans. So if you want a plena class, come holler.
Yeah. So that's my last rant. Just want to say to Beatriz Rosselló,
Vete pa' allá.
no seas pendeja.
Eso.
Literally at the time when Turning Point USA is trying to organize a counter to a Puerto Rican artist, at that point you think it's a time to bring a Turning Point to Puerto Rico, and guess what? Turning Point told them, we're not interested.
They don't care.
They don't care.
They threw in paper. They didn't even throw in paper towels this time. You see? Wow.
Not that. So
insane.
So that is my last rant. So with that, I am Democratic strategist and the Puerto Rican Heat, and I want to thank Maria Isa, my state rep.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Thank you.
And with that, take us away, Gabe.
I can't believe that was I was like, that's silly.
I saw that.
That's silly hoe. You know they hated me and Sam ran and Ryan pendejito. I'm like,
I love the first thing. BC, no relation to NBC.